They say the early bird eats the fattest worm. And it's not just worm now, it's meat inclusive of the bone. We're early on SOUQ News Television every day to give you exactly the things that would make your business and money grow. My name is Hans Mba. It's SOUQ Business Landscape. You know what we do on the show this morning. We'll take a short coffee break. When we return, we'll let you know exactly what those things are for today. Stay here. Welcome right back. It's SOUQ Business Landscape. We'll dive right in. Business Day, Nigeria. Foreign investment in Nigeria's stocks up 204% in quarter two. 204% is a lot. Portfolio investments rise 360% to $3.5 billion in half of the year gone. Investment growth linked to high yield environments and reforms that's ongoing. I take this venture to introduce my guest. He's none other than Dr. Osamhanze. Welcome to the show, as usual, sir.
Good morning. Good Nigeria.
How are you doing?
Good SOUQ this morning.
How are you doing?
I'm cool. And you?
I'm fine.
All right. You're fine, boy. No pimples at all.
Doc, foreign investments up. Stocks are up. A whooping 204%.
Well, signs of good things to happen, really. And I think this is also worth celebrating. It's always not about the wolves. It's also that there are some positive things that are happening.
Correct.
You see there are a lot of money also coming into the environment. We're also grateful, and because this is exactly what it is, that we don't need to do shuttle diplomacy so much than to clean up your environment. And once that environment is clean, a lot of people want to come and do business. To a very large extent, Nigeria is still very fallow land. And this is a high time to break all that fallow land. And then we'll see that a lot of fruitfulness, productivity can begin really to take place. Foreigners will look for opportunities. And then when they find it, it really don't matter which part of the globe it is. They will want to
right in.
Yes, on it. And so people want to put their money where, of course, it can make a lot of impact and profit. That is what it is, and that's how business had always moved. And so what leaders do is clean up the environment and ensure that the ease of doing business indicators are right and aware. Now, what is this ease of doing business? We talk about that there are no strangulating transaction in the system, no undue encumbrances, of course, or red tapeism in terms of creating those opportunities, opening up new businesses, and the rest of it. That again, you are also seeing that you have a judiciary that is up and doing. That in the place of dispute, that business dispute are easily resolved. All these things are quite very important for the ease of doing business. So once people can see that a lot of reforms are happening within the system, and then people willing to bring in money, more so that in the last 1 year or two, the Nigerian Stock Exchange has been the best globally in terms of returns. And so that's quite inviting. And I think we need to drum up more of this so that those in Asia and America and Europe realize that there's a whole lot of feasting right here and they can come and take part of it.
You said the phrase strangulating something.
Yeah.
I like that phrase. But it's such a great thing because it's just half of the year and it's 204% up. So let's keep at it. December is looking good. Nigeria at 64, judiciary in dire need of reforms. So senior lawyers affirm there's a rot in the system. They affirm disorder. They affirm that and they're looking forward to set agenda for the new incoming CJN. This is serious business, though.
Yeah, I think the CJN herself had read the Riot Act, and I am really waiting to see what Madam Kekeruekun will do in that regard. Because the real problem is not the judiciary; the problem is actually the lawyers.
Is that her other name? Kekeruekun.
Yeah, that's her name.
Really?
Yeah.
Sounds fierce.
Yeah. She's a lion, and we want her to clean up that system. Because most of the things that we actually talk about is really not the judiciary, it's the pressure that the lawyers put on the judiciary.
Mm.
It is the lawyers that are abusing the court processes.
Mm.
Because if you don't file a case, the judges will not make or take a decision on it. They are the one who go around every night looking for where to shop in injunctions and ex parte motions and others. The courts are waiting. So I think it is the lawyer that really needs to clean up. That the desperation to take money from clients puts the judiciary itself under pressure. When you are going to meet the judiciary with frivolous orders, this is that you know that they are not meant for the good of society, but you just will clog the wheel of justice. So I think they themselves should know enough. It's not enough to just talk. There are some certain things that, of course, lawyers should not be taken to court.
Right.
Just to create confusion, because the judiciary didn't want to hear them really. But if they are able to really advise their client and say, look, this is not a court case because the laws are clear on this issue and they are not trying to see how to stand the laws on their head, probably the sanity will come to the judiciary. But I think that both the bar and the bench really need to sit down and find a way to resolve and set a new code of practice.
Right.
And I think that the CJN also said that there are some privileges that some lawyer enjoyed, that she felt that they are just privileges and they can also be withdrawn if they are seen to be abusing court processes and procedures. So I think it's just on both ends. Yeah, of course, they're quick to cry that judges are not giving them, but when they know that cases that they bring before the judges sometimes are very controversial, and some of them may not even have foundations in the extant laws of or the provisions of the law, but they just go there and say, let's go and try the case. You remember the most celebrated case of a presidential candidate must win two-thirds of 36 states
Votes, yeah.
and FCT.
Yes.
And see what
Mess.
kind of interpretations are coming from. And someone say, oh, and it's a conjunction, and therefore Abuja is a must to win.
Bending the law.
How does that make sense to a human being? That if I win 36 states and I don't win Abuja, therefore I cannot become president of Nigeria. Doesn't make sense. If somebody say, let's go and test it in the court. You're testing it.
What's there to test?
Yeah. So when the judiciary make pronouncement, oh, you say, oh, they have been bribed, they are corrupt, and all this, and start to raise the alarm. But you understand that there is no special status that is conferred on Abuja, for example.
Right.
What's the status? Where is the provision of the constitution that says that Abuja will be treated specially because the citizens of Abuja are so unique that they override and veto all the actions of other 36 states of the federation? So these are common sense.
I see what you mean.
These are common sense. But if you look at it in the fact of the case of the 2023 presidential election, it was a real issue. Because some of them tried the idea and say, let's go and test the hand in the court. So anything that does not meet the test of common sense should not be taken before a judge in the first place. So I think that the lawyers themselves need really to clean their acts and practice law the way it should, and without putting undue pressure on the judiciary. And I think these are the issues that we find in there. Although there are, of course, the entire nation itself has issues, and of course, we cannot also rule out the fact that there are some black sheep among the judges who also are willing to take some a few
Bend the rule
and then try to pervert the will of justice.
Yes.
We do hope that, because it's also important, I just mentioned that casually when I said that it's even part of the ease of doing business.
True.
You see, because if the judiciary is pressured this much, I was speaking with one of the Chief Justice of the Federation, and he said to me, look, there are cases that will not be heard in the next 3 years or 4 years.
But they're being waited on.
Yeah. But the National Assembly even made the matter worse. Rather than allow that electioneering issue stop at appeal court, they even made it to get up to Supreme Court. So, but because of the exigencies of the time and that were put in that place, then the judiciary, the apex court has no other option than to first consider the election cases, and then the civil cases and the other cases suffer. So I think we must look for creative ways to see how to really free up the judiciary such that people can predict when cases end. And it's not like forever. And many lawyers understand this, and so they get perpetual injunction.
On and on. And
yes, of course, you don't even get into the substantive case.
and keep getting paid.
So you are arguing ex parte order for 3 years, 4 years. You have not even entered into the substantive matter. So if you're a businessman and you are looking at this kind of an environment, you are asking yourself, so which means if I have a conflict or dispute and I want to resolve it through the court process, a lawyer could put an injunction and be filing frivolous excuses not to appear in court.
Well,
and in the next 3, 4, 5 years,
wasting my time.
Your business is not moving and nothing is happening. So this is part of the thing that, of course, we really need to clear out so that if justice is done as speedily as possible, people will have confidence in the system. And that's the reason why also you find that when people are actually setting arbitration clauses, especially on contract that has to do with Nigeria and those who are not Nigerians, they don't always like arbitration happen in Nigeria. And they have to take it outside.
Take it outside.
Most of the time when we go outside, we get wounded somehow.
Forget. The justice is done, actually. And the rot, like the senior lawyers say, remains. Business Daily Kenya. Kenya makes fresh bid to end power sales in dollars. Wandale says Kenya Power Mullins talks with IPPs, foreign currency billing blamed for high electricity costs. Doc, fresh bid to end power sales. Kenya is trying to sell Kenya Power.
Well, it's we spoke about this
on Monday.
On Monday, people want to keep their value in a reserve currency, and that's a currency that, of course, that is predictable.
Yes.
Or of course, that is near predictable. When, of course, your shilling is falling by the day, like a pack of cards, nobody want to do business in that kind of an environment because you don't know what happened the next. And I think that it's also important that we also work hard and see how we can really stabilize African currency such that we are not really having to dollarize our economy that much. I think the one shortcut to that really is to have an African common currency, just like the EU zone had done. The euro is one across all the 14 European nations that are members of that community. So the same currency is used everywhere. And I think that is where Africa really need to sit up and see how to clean up its acts and put them together. Once we have a common currency in Africa, it will help a lot. The balancing effect of common trade we help stabilize value, I guess. Government in Kenya, yeah, of course, you can ask and make a law to that effect. But what happened? With the business people who want to succumb to that law? Because if you are making a law that will make business not to thrive, what do you think people will do? They will take business to where they feel that there's other better and greater opportunity. So, yeah, creating that balance is also very important. And I think that the Kenyan authority must also look at that and see how to put confidence in their local shilling currency. And that will make a lot of difference.
Yes, making businesses thrive, creating an enabling environment for them. CBK cuts main lending rates by biggest margin since COVID. CBK cuts main lending rates by biggest margin since March 2019. So incidentally, there's relief as Central Bank of Kenya cuts the benchmark interest rates by the largest margin since the start of hardships of COVID-19. We're talking between March, from around March 2020. And this has signaled relief from borrowers that are saddled with costly loans, also reversing a slowdown in their demand for credits.
You know, as you were looking through this headline, there was a thought that just came to my head. And there was a certain young lady, a doctor, a medical doctor in Uganda. There was this FAO program that was held in Uganda, and then she was talking about the value of agriculture. And one of the issues that she raised in that particular conference was the fact that if she, as a Ugandan, is taking a loan at 40%, and her counterpart in Japan is taking a loan at 2%, how can both of them compete?
It's a huge margin.
They can compete. And so for her, taking a loan in Uganda is like a suicide. What business will somebody do really in a fiscal year and able to make 40% profit to be able to pay back that loan?
Sounds like you're doomed to fail from the onset.
Oh, yeah. So I think this is actually what most African nations need to understand.
Doc, the loan you talked about, now, will such a lady, is she able to take the loan from outside Kenya?
No, but
living in Kenya.
No. But you are able to do that. Your bank or your CBN should be able to collateralize that loan. But the unfortunate thing, if they are going to collateralize that loan, they will use their own local interest rate.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So that is what it is, except that you are getting a grant from other nations. Otherwise, it will be very difficult because that interaction cannot happen. And I think this is fundamental. I listened to a certain congressman who was speaking very, very passionately about Africa. And he said that the real problem that is killing Africa are high interest rates, over taxation, and all this is the effort of African leaders to prove to their Western creditors that they are capable of paying back.
To the detriment of the people.
But that is exactly what is crumbling the economy.
And businesses.
And the businesses of the African nation. And then we are now giving them handouts, which they don't need. And so, in his view, he feels that Africa must work to drag down rates and not keep increasing it so that there be access to venture capitals. People can start business and there's not so much encumbrances. And the opportunity to make profit also is created by the lending institutions.
This is such a problem, Doc. I don't know, with this high interest rates on loans, We'll see.
Yeah, but that is good news for the Kenyan CBN to have lowered the rates, and that, of course, will encourage a lot of people to participate. You see, but the real reason why a lot of men or women don't want to go into business is to see that, look, you just know for the first that you cannot access the bank, and secondly, if you access, the rates are killing, and therefore people just lose hope. And people resort to crime. Just imagine that, of course, we have a good rate and people can actually be more creative and productive. And they can really create that enablement or the force that the economy needs to grow.
Yes, create that force. EA corporate deals deep on low Kenya activity. East Africa corporate deals deep on low Kenya activity. The number of reported corporate deals in East Africa dropped to nearly a fifth in the first 7 months of this year, 2024, as compared to the corresponding period last year. This is largely, it's reported to be due to reduced activity.
Yeah, but that's expected, because we look at, for example, in the East Africa, the biggest economy in the East Africa is Kenya.
That's all. Every other person is strong.
Yeah. So if Kenya economy is facing a crisis, of course, there'll be a spillover effect on the neighbors.
Other nations.
Yeah. So I think that's just understandable, and that's why it's very important that Kenya needs to really do a lot to stir up activities around the East Africa. Other economies in East Africa, Rwanda, Uganda, Zimbabwe, they are just small entities compared to the economy of Kenya. And of course, again, Kenya is also the gateway to the East Africa in terms of whether both internet facilities or even the seaport, which is at Mombasa. So this is really a challenge for the East Africans, but I think that President Ruto is able to put his act together and get Kenya working again. And then, of course, the entire of that region, of course, will begin to see days of prosperity.
So we wish you well. But you see, this next headline is good, but it's contradictory at the same time. Cash in fixed deposit accounts hits 2 trillion shillings. Savers in banks have moved away from the lower yielding saving accounts to balances dipping to 1.6 trillion shillings in July this year from 1.7 trillion shillings at the same time last year. This amount of money savings held in fixed deposit accounts crossed the 2 trillion shillings mark for the first time this year.
Yeah, but I told you this every day. In your elementary economics, they tell you the purpose of every sole proprietor is to make profit.
Make profit.
So
Which way?
Yes, of course, you put your money where, of course, it can bring the higher yield or return. So that's expected. If the rate for deposit is there, and of course, people want to put money there. But I think it's also a good way of incentivizing savings, and then also helping the bank to actually do its work, which is, of course, is lending to people who needs those loans. Because one of the big problems you have in most African countries is that the fact that because people are not too sure of the rate that comes on savings, people don't leave money in their account for too long, and therefore the bank can really not turn them over, as it were. Just imagine that they just threw your salary in there, by the next morning you have withdrawn everything, because you don't want to keep it in right there in the bank because values are not coming. So what this also means is the fact that if you have a head yielding in terms of deposit, so once the money market is lively, people are able to say, okay, well, if you put it for 1 year, you get X amount of incentive. If you put it for 2 years, you get X amount of incentive. So when people keep money for that long, the bank is actually also able to make plans and programs to lend. And then they are lending, because commercial banks actually don't print money. It is what people deposit that they can trade with. So once that money comes to the commercial bank and it can stay for a period of 1 year, then they can trade with it and make profits. And then, of course, the depositor themselves also take a bite
But
of
Doc,
the,
you see, there's
of the share.
there's another reason for that. Where the money comes in, you take it out, because you put your money in. When it's used, you get a measly percentage, low percentage returns.
Yeah,
Then when you go to borrow, what you're bringing back, the interest is high.
yeah, but that is what it is, and I think this is why this is commendable, to say that you are increasing the rate in your money market, and that really allow people. Again, in short, I actually feel in my ranking that this is a better way to deal with the even demand push inflation, to take money out of circulation.
Okay.
Because if the yield is high, people want to put their money in the bank, and then the CBN can oversight it. So you don't need to be raising your rate to take money from people. All you just need to do is incentivize savings.
Give them a reason to bring the money.
And then they bring it by themselves.
Fantastic. Awesome. We'll take a short break here. When we return, we're going to South Africa and see what's happening with the business headlines. Stay here. Welcome right back. Business Day, South Africa. Visa relief visa relief for South Africa recruiters. This is good news coming from SA regarding visa. Reforms are good news, and it goes on the verge of tourism mixed with business. So the Home Affairs ministers today, Wednesday, gazettes far-reaching reforms of South Africa's visa regime that will have significant implications for the economy, for tourism, for foreign investments, and the procurement of much-needed skills. These reforms will remove bureaucratic hurdles and are designed to make it easier for South African companies and multinationals to hire skilled workers, Doc, as well as making SA a realistic prospect for people to come in. This sounds good, because many times these visas for skilled workers becomes too difficult, especially in the West, and it can be the same in Africa.
I think it's a very smart move.
Right?
It's a smart move.
Tourism business.
Yeah, of course, because the problem is that many of African leaders really do not understand that the more people come into your environment,
bring the money,
the better your economy actually will be, because of course you find that you have access to the best of hands in terms of skills. You can actually globally get people who will help drive
your
economy.
Right.
And I think a lot of people are running away from that. I was arguing in one of my classes the other day that you see, I worry a lot by the way Africans have come to talk about what we call today local content policy. That because you have a challenge of employment, and therefore you want your institutions to be driven mostly by your locals. And what happens if your locals have known the requisite skill to drive that process? Then you slow down. And I said, if you look at most economies that actually had advanced, there are two ways to go about it. It's either you open up while you build your internal capacity,
yes,
which is what Singapore did, which is, of course, also what UAE had done effectively, is to allow a lot of expats and foreigners who have the requisite skill to come to build a system for you. And then, of course, your people understudy these ones until they are competent enough to drive the entire process. And you successfully did that. They call hands from everywhere in the world, and they could find them. And the doors were open, and people were flooding in. Visa regime, you apply today, in 1 week, 4 days, your visa is out. And they tell you, come and do business. The entire place is free.
4 days.
All free trade zones everywhere was open. In short, sometimes 72 hours, 48 hours. to get visa. So they actually enhanced it so that people can come. Look at what is happening in Rwanda today. A visa-free for all African countries and most countries of the Commonwealth. It's visa on arrival. All you just need to buy your ticket, and then, of course, you go to Rwanda. You spend 30 days. And after 30 days, then they cannot charge you like $100 to say, okay, you have overstayed. But look at how people are flocking into Rwanda because they've created that ecosystem. And I think it's important.
Like you said, incentivize.
Yeah. Most African leaders really understand this reality. Don't put in so much equivalences on the process of getting your visa. My friend who is an Indian was telling me how frustrating it was for him to go to Abu Dhabi to drop an application, drive back again to Dubai, and then you say after 3 days, come back again. And it just feels that some of all these things can actually be digitized, that people can do all of all these things online. And then, of course, you get it. Morocco gets online visa. And as long as you can say, oh, I have a visa to the US, I have gotten a visa to the UK, you just apply online, and in 24 hours, you get your visa to enter Morocco. Before this, a possibility that African nations are trying out. And I think that many of African nations need to really democratize that space and allow people to come into our environment. And then, of course, bring in their skills, bring in their money that transform our nation.
But are we doing that in Nigeria?
I am not too sure that we have gotten to that point, but I think those reforms that are happening right now will open those doors so that people can continue to come in and then bring in the money. But I think we need to create an ecosystem, a narrative of a safe society, a secure society, that people's both their capital investments and their persons are safe if they come in. So that environment and that narrative we must also create. But I think government is doing quite well in terms of security because it's not as bad as we were hearing 2 or 3 years ago.
This is commendable, Doc. More headlines: lower input costs lift farm output hopes. We talked about this on Monday. How it has to do with eggs and agri products. Treasury has no extra funds for defense. No extra funds for defense. So we segue on to business post in Bangladesh. Government greenlights 45 million egg imports. We talked about this on Monday as well. Prices hits 180 taka per dozen. Cost of eggs surged by 30 taka per dozen. So picture 30 taka per dozen up to 180 taka per dozen. This just this past month.
No, the world is eating so much egg right now.
You mentioned it. Was it on Monday or last week?
Yes.
The doctor said you should.
Yes, when the doctors were not farmer, egg was not good for the body. Now, since the doctors have become farmer,
they wanted to patronize them.
Egg is now good for the body. So somehow, we have to be very careful of the narratives that we take outside there. Because they are so contradictory right now.
It is crazy.
Right now, people are saying you can eat 2 eggs in a day, but before they say don't eat it because
it's not good for your heart.
Your heart. And so I don't know how this research changes. Maybe science is not as objective as we paint it most of the time.
It was, right?
Yeah, but it's understandable. And I think even from the Holy Book, Paul says that we know in part, and so we can only prophesy in part. Until the full reality comes, we really don't know what things are. So science is also very progressive, and the things we know today, better knowledge can come tomorrow. So kudos to science.
Yes. July-August export earnings reach $7.16 billion. July-August export earnings reach $7.16 billion. Current account balance of BOP is now positive to the tune of $101 million for July-August of the fiscal year looking at 2025. It was $610 million deficit in the same year period of 2024, Doc.
Yeah, good news for the Bangladesh. It's also to say that so certain things happen not by accident. We also say Yunus Mohammed doing greatly there after the uprising and the exit of the former prime minister. Let's hope that he will bring his economic prowess to bear and see how to drive the Bangladesh economy further high.
Yes.
And most importantly, for him, which is the tax of redistribution of wealth, is also very critical because the people at the lower runge of the ladder in Bangladesh are so poor, while those at the top echelon are so rich. So that gap, you must find a way to bridge it, and that's important. And then see how to quickly return Bangladesh to democracy.
Wow, amazing. SOUQ invites 3 conglomerates for stock listing. Bangladesh Stock Exchange invites 3 conglomerates for stock listing. Doc, is that how it happens sometimes? Stock Exchange reach out and say, come.
Yeah, come and
So why didn't the conglomerate go in the first place if it's beneficial 100% to them?
Well, but I think it's just natural that so come to the market and add credibility to the market. That is what it is. People see that you are playing the market. It also will give confidence to other people. So I don't think
there's a conglomerate. Can any of them refuse?
Yes, possible, because there is not. This is not by law that you say you must do it. It's an appeal and reaching out to say, cool, come list. When people see that your business is doing well and they see that you are playing in the stock market, it also gives credibility to the capital market in that environment. And then, of course, people can bring in their money to play in the capital market, because the real place where wealth is created. Where wealth is created is the capital market, and that is what it is everywhere. Whether it's the New York Stock Exchange or the Wall Street, or you go to the London stock, wherever, Asia market, the real place where these things happen are the stock market. And people see that businesses are not in the hands of just few people. It's so democratized that people can have access to own and ownership in some of these businesses. It's a plus for the economy. So if a SEC is going out to say, come and do business, let people see that you are here, that, of course, will boost their credibility in the capital market
space. The thing
with
that is, when the conglomerates come in, it's advantageous to the stock market. It's saying, yes, we're doing well. What's in it for the conglomerates? Because they're feeling like, okay, if we are going to boost what people feel about you and how you make business work well. For us, what's in it for us? We're doing well already, standing on this side.
Yeah, but you just have more money. You can actually diversify. You can actually expand once more money comes. So what it means that you are playing in the stock market and you are doing excellently well. People come and bring in more money and they buy your stock, and so you have a lot of liquidity to expand or to diversify your business and create more of that source of earnings. So I think it's a win-win for both sides, really, especially when the stock is performing very well and people really believe and have interest, or the integrity of the business is also enhanced to a very large extent.
Awesome. Government set to issue 5,000 TACA bonds to clear power sector dues. That's on page 4. On to Financial Times.
Another borrowing there.
Borrowing?
Yeah, anytime you hear bond, you just know that government want to borrow money.
Want to borrow money or raise money from within?
Yeah, you are raising money, you are borrowing. That is it.
From the people.
Yes, of course. You are going to pay back something.
You're calling it borrowing. That's not what it is. You're looking for money. All right, Financial Times UK. Abu Dhabi writes off Thames Water stake as Labour tries to lure investors in. Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund has written off its investment of 9.9% stake value in the Thames Water parent company. It says, and I quote, due to challenging regulatory environment and operational performance. This is a blow to the Labour government as it gears up to host a summit designed to attract big investors in the UK.
Yeah.
Sounds good too.
UAE is always on top.
Always thriving, right?
And they know how to create that ecosystem for fun to come. And here again, incentivizing the United Kingdom to bring in their pounds.
I wish we could just learn to do this here.
Oh yeah, it's that's what it is when leaders are visionary and they can see and know how to create an environment where people will rush in and do a lot of things. And UAE, they are very good at this.
Also, Princeton's green U-turn. So Princeton, one of the most prestigious universities in the US, has reversed a policy that sharply constrained the funding of academic research by fossil fuel groups after the pressure from faculties who feared it curbed its environmental work. Princeton has nothing to fear. I don't know.
Yeah, but there's so much to fear, really. But you see, what it is that your
Princeton
work.
is Princeton.
Yeah, it's Princeton, but it's just here. It's just an academic department. You see, a lot of people have invested so much in the study of fossil fuel. A lot of people have been written in this dimension, and what you're doing, you're creating a new field of study, which is the green, and almost everybody is focusing their attention on green and what happened to the fossil fuel side, and then it become really moribund. And I think the need to create that balance is also very huge, why both can live side by side. And because really there are a lot of more reality from the fossil fuel beyond just the diesel and the petrol or the gasoline we talk about. There are other ancillary products that actually come from that area that is helping the world, whether it's the auto market.
Even after.
So we must realize that we cannot completely ignore that department or that sector. It will be to the disadvantage because there is a limit to which the green can go. The green can talk about energy, but beyond energy, household items today that we are depending on, because of course we are losing nature. Therefore, this is the source that people are resorting to in terms of whether building the body of autos, plastic chairs and the rest of it, and all this equipment that we are using today. They all have over 1,000 items that they said is derivable from crude alone. And I think these are issues that the world must also pay attention to. That while we are dragging and pushing the agenda of green, we must also see, is there a better and more efficient and effective way to use the fossil fuel and make it less detrimental to the economy? I don't think we should abandon it altogether.
Going green. And Princeton is known for its high-level research work as well. China's tariff on brandy. So Beijing will impose provisional anti-dumping measures on EU brandy imports and is escalating its trade wars with Brussels. Why? Because just days after, they slapped higher tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles. So it's like a do me and do you thing. Okay,
yeah, but that is what
on our vehicles, we put tariff on your brandy.
It's trade war. That happens. We're talking about that yesterday on early exchange, and that is what it is, especially when there's so much challenge in the economy. Everybody is struggling for competitive advantage. And like I said to them yesterday, there are two principal ways to compete. It's either you compete based on differentiation or you compete based on cost. So what it is here is that if the Islam thing make you less competitive, so you must find a retaliatory measure to ensure that you remain in the market, and that is what it is. It's a dog-eat-dog kind of war. That's what it means to play in the Red Ocean.
I realize that business is not for everybody.
Yeah, it's not.
It's crazy.
You have to have a thick skin like a tortoise to be able to play.
At this juncture, we come to the tail end of. Doc, thank you so much for being on SOUQ Business Landscape.
Always a pleasure here.
Join us same time on Friday, 7 a.m. for another exciting and very mind-opening edition of the show. My name is Hans Mba. Stay tuned at 8 o'clock for early exchange as our programming continues. Have a lovely morning.